What is up, guys? It is the Plan C podcast here to you with the first episode of season 2.
Season 2, baby!
Bringing to you our good friend Radhia Rahman, also known as Knives Meow, amazing artist, illustrator, and maker of great things.
And businesswoman.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, we're going to have a great conversation today. I think it'll be fun. And if you're an artist, I think it'll be great to hear her path. If you're not an artist, I mean, it'll still be interesting because, you know, we got it.
Go to art school could be helpful, you know, everything.
A lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube, following on Spotify, subscribed on Apple Podcasts, and everything. We recently interviewed a local leader in our city district, Kenya Handy Hilliard. It was a very good listen, and if you're interested in local politics and you're from Brooklyn, or you just want to listen to sort of what's up in Brooklyn, be sure to check that out. That was our previous podcast. We have some other great ones coming up as well. On Wednesday, we're filming a movie podcast. I'm not going to say what movie it is because it's a really, really good movie, and I'm probably going to cry watching it. But you'll hear about that on that podcast when it comes out. I was going to say Bong Joon-ho. That was our last movie. Quentin Quarantino Part 3 coming your way. Be sure to look out for it. All right, that's enough from us. We're going to get into it. Let's do it. And we are here today with Radhia Rahman, or Knives Meow, you may know her as. Lovely artist, close friend of the pod, just a cool person all around. Radhia, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Colin? And Cameron.
Yo.
What's
And
good with y'all? How was your
Cameron.
evening? Yes.
It's a good night, you know, just hanging out, looking forward to chopping this up, getting into it. So, for the people who may not know, why don't you tell us a little bit, sort of how you got started?
How far back are we talking exactly?
I mean,
are we talking
hey,
the origins?
Just you know, it's your path. So anywhere you want to start.
Well, I guess there are a lot of people who are artists that are like, yeah, like I've been drawing since like last year, and that's also an artist. And I feel like there's no level of like skill. Well, I mean, I guess, but like there's no level of like years of apprenticeship you need to call yourself a creative. But essentially, I've been making things my entire life. Like even as a kid, I would absolutely value like getting my hands into anything and like making stuff. And I feel like that's definitely like translated throughout like my adulthood. Like obviously I illustrate, so I have a specific area where I make artwork, but there are other areas where I branch out and, you know, like I do ceramics and like fiber arts, and there's so many other things where I'm just constantly making. And a lot of that honestly had to do with coming from a low-income family because, you know, when you don't grow up with a lot of things, you end up turning nothing into something. And a lot of my creativity and imagination came from the burden of having less, which like really sucks, but that's really what it is, you know, and that's where it's kind of rooted, where you know, children usually had toys or things that they wanted. And for me, I was drawing and kind of using what I had in front of me. And when you have like very simple things in front of you, you have no option but to get creative and figure out like what to do with very little resources you have. And I think that's like set the path and the tone for like being a teenager and then like also entering college and also where I am right now.
So long story short, you're resourceful.
Yeah. gotta have like a plan B, or I guess a plan C as well.
I like that. I was kind of wondering, like now I see you make like a lot of trinkets or like charms or pins.
Mm-hmm.
Did that start early, or is that something more recent?
So I started making charms and like pins in high school. I remember seeing some people in my high school, they were buying these wooden pins and painting on them, and I thought that was like a super brilliant idea because, it's you basically have your little wood canvas right there, and you buy a pin back, and you have paint that, you have as a art high school student. And so I decided, why not do little characters on them, or I had pieces of felt that I would stitch and turn into little brooches, like little felt pins. And back then I didn't understand, or I didn't even know that you could get your designs like manufactured by a company, nor did I have like the money to like bulk manufacture. So I would actually buy shrink plastic and draw on them, like, when you had like Shrinky Dinks back in the days. So I would draw on like shrink plastic.
Take me back.
Yeah, I would draw on shrink plastic, and I would literally just like buy little like cell phone key straps. Back when, you had like flip phones, or like cell phones had the little area to put in a phone strap.
Your little cell phone charms?
I miss the flip phone.
Yes, I miss like the freaking massive, just like tangled thing of like cell phone charms. I feel like that was also like an anime thing,
Oh, for sure. It was definitely like it was a time.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I started to make those, and also people were like, hey, like, are you selling that? And I was like, no, but I guess I will if you want one. So I never had like people like lining up to commission me for those things, but I would just make them at my own pace, and people liked the way I made them. Like, I specifically remember I made a couple of pins that were like no face, and they had little star beads glued on them. So a lot of what I did was like beyond the realm of just these are how you use these things. I was just like literally gluing things together and like painting them and like adding glitter, and I was like, yes, this is the masterpiece I've made. Yeah, and that definitely is also what I do now. Obviously, it's a bit more like concise, and I'm using more professional tools and materials, and the things that are handmade, I'm making sure that they withstand throughout time and also wear. So that's sort of where it came from, I guess, now that I think about it. No one's ever asked me that question.
No, I mean, it's something that always interests me because, I look at these lovely Kuni holiday cards. And it's like, wow, that's really incredible. And something else I always find incredible is that you, Radhia, you're not, as an artist, you're not set to rules or guidelines necessarily. You're sort of your own boss. Do you want to speak a little on that and sort of how you have built, your sort of platform and everything just while you are literally doing it all?
Yeah, so being your own boss is hard because there's no one that tells you to stop working. And you also have to tell yourself when to work and when to take breaks and when you need to be more focused. But it is nice having the creative it is nice having the creative agency of working around my own deadlines and hours, but it can be quite a lot, especially as someone who's doing freelance and also as someone who's adapted the title of not only just illustrator but content creator. Yeah, which is wild to me because especially going to art school, you have so many like teachers being like, if you don't do this, you're not going to make it in the real world. Like, if you don't do things a certain way, you're not going to have a job. If you don't like have your work look a certain way, you're not going to like make it or whatever. And I was fed so much negativity from people, or like people telling me, oh, kids these days have it easy. And I start to wonder, like, but that's the point. Is that not the point? Like,
it should be easier.
Like the whole purpose of generation to generation is hoping that we pave some kind of path for future artisans, creators, whoever it is in whatever field they're pursuing, to make things a little bit less hellish than it was before. And I think, through the internet and being someone who also has their work exist in reality and also like in the digital world, making sure that I can leave a few things behind for people that also want to do what I do.
That's amazing. Also, speaking on that college experience, if the people don't know, me and Radhia both went to SVA.
Sva.
It was great at times, at other times a shit show, as you know. I was wondering, because I think we had vastly different experiences, as although we were both in the cartooning program for the first year, you went to illustration while I stayed in cartooning, and I was wondering.
She got out of there.
Yeah, she was smart.
Wait, no, I was in illustration, but I took more cartooning classes. Like, I literally, like, challenged the entire, like, illustration department.
Oh, you just decided to like stick to the guns of cartooning while being in
Yes, I
illustration.
did,
That's
yes.
that's fire. That's fire.
Because I also got my work published in the cartooning, the graduate book.
Oh, it's dope.
Yeah.
Damn, Radhia's
Everybody
all
do
over
that.
the place, guys.
All over the map
All over.
in a good way.
Yes.
But I was wondering, what are some of like the most important lessons that you learned in college that have helped you steer your career path?
I think definitely creating connections and meeting people. That was the biggest part of my college experience. Also, like, obviously the classes that you take, because the classes you take should be courses you actually want to learn or feel like it's been useful learning a certain skill or a certain technique. But actually being able to make connections with people is exactly what helps you land an opportunity for the future. I had really, really, really bad social anxiety in high school and also at the beginning of college, where I just did not want to talk to anyone. Nor did I like stand up for myself when it came to correcting people or defending my viewpoints, whether it was like even during a critique or something. And I learned to get better at that because I was like, no, my work isn't shit. Like, it's good, but you don't get it. But you have to be prepared to explain to someone what you mean and also learn to take criticism, which is a whole, like, that's just general life advice. But I think with art college, it truly depends on, like, who you build those connections with, because they pretty much know almost every person in that field of art. Like, fine art people know connections to galleries, illustration people know connections to commercial work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, my college experience was much more than just like hunting people down, because that wasn't the intention. But it's funny that you asked that, because I literally just got an email from one of my foundation class professors. She was like,
it up?
no, she was just like, hey, I was going through my papers and I found your business card. I wonder how you're doing. And I was like, wow. Hi.
Did you tell her I am a bad bitch?
I'm going to hit her up with the email being like, actually, I'm doing really well right now. And it's funny that like you say that, because Thomas Woodruff actually hit me up too. And I was like, that's good. I don't know if I can disclose this information. So I'm going to leave it at that, but I'll tell you guys what it is, but I think you'll have to edit it out.
No,
but,
you can, it's fine. You can just tell us later.
Okay, yeah, all right, cool.
Sorry, listeners.
Yeah,
you gotta be inside the plant seat to know.
Yeah, it was really weird, because I felt like my experience in college was a lot of having to prove to people that the work that I wanted to create was worthy, and how much meaning it has to also make sure that you don't separate the art from the artist. But at the same time, making sure that the art is representative of itself, but also hoping that knowing where the artist originates from, like, adds value to the artwork as well and gives context, you know?
Yeah. On that same topic of college, I was, for any of the people listening that may be interested in art college, or maybe not, but do you have any advice for anybody that might be deciding to go into art college, or is an artist that might want to go into college or might not want to?
Yeah, of course. So college is a big thing. The first scary thing is money. And, SBA was expensive. I don't come from any generational wealth. I went to school entirely on loans. So that is my burden to bear. But that is usually the first thing that was the block between whether or not I wanted to go to school. But I knew this was something that I felt was necessary, just as my life experience, because I'm the first person that's graduated from college and also pursuing a very like non-traditional career. But if money isn't an issue, then, looking into colleges that actually provide classes that you want to take, and or have professors that you've are in some way familiarized with in their work and knowing if they are actually people who are in the industry. So the great thing about SVA is that a lot of their professors, especially in the illustration department, are actually working illustrators, like commercial illustrators. So you are you know that this person has specific advice to offer when it comes to working in that industry. And obviously, like, you know, this depends on like where you want to be. Like, do you want to end up moving to a different city or wherever you want to go? But I think the school doesn't make the artist. I definitely think the artist makes the artist, because there are people that don't go to college either, or there are people that I know that have tried to attend various different art colleges or have dropped out, and they've still been successful. Like right now, off the top of my head, I can think about one of my mutual art friends on the internet. Her name is Lee Ellickson, and she's this amazing artist. And she has a Patreon, she has a YouTube, she has a amazing, successful online business, and her art is just magnificent, like chef's kiss, okay? And she has, you know, she's mentioned in her videos, like, you know, she tried to go to art school like almost 3 times and dropped out. And, you know, a degree isn't what gets you a job, it's your portfolio. And I've never had anyone necessarily ask where I've like gone to school. But, you know, I think about Lee Ellickson and I'm like, here's an example that you don't necessarily need to have a college degree, or even honestly a degree in what you want to do to be an artist. Now I'm thinking about this artist named Fran Meneses. She's a Chilean illustrator, and she recently moved to Brooklyn, and she's in her early 30s, so she is like much older than I am, and she graduated in graphic design. But she illustrates, and you know, these people, they're like absolutely amazing. They have so much creative control and just so much history of like how much artwork they've made throughout their life, and it like just mesmerizes me. And like they're people that push me to keep going. And this all draws back to like you, like the school going to a certain school doesn't grant you success in life. Nice. You know, and I think that's a huge misconception, because you know, kind of going back to my family and like my culture, there are a lot of people where, you know, at family functions, people will ask, hey, what do you do? And, you know, other people, they'll be like, oh yeah, my son, he goes to like NYU, he's studying medical, and he's going to be a doctor. And no one asks questions about that. And when, you know, it comes around to me and I'm like, yeah, I go to SBA and I study illustration. And they're like, what? What do you mean? And, you know, what?
How are you going to make money?
How are you going to make money? Like like people are suddenly like asking what my like 5-year plan is. But when someone states that, you know, they have a very like STEM based career, like medicine or engineering, there are no further questions.
Because it's so cut and dry.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like there are different types of doctors. But that's just an example that's coming off the top of my head.
So actually that lines up sort of nicely with what I want to ask you next. So in terms of down the line stuff, as a doctor, you know, you can say, oh, I'm doing a fellowship here, or engineer, I'm working on this project. What's something in the next 5 to 10 years that you sort of want to do and or accomplish?
Are we talking about life goals or art goals?
I mean, it could be either.
For 10 years, definitely paying off those student loans. Or hopefully, you know, under the new presidency, maybe some of it will be forgiven. Who knows? But it feels like a lot of my like life achievements, I can't like be crystal clear of like what exactly I want to manifest. Obviously, there are things that I want for myself, but it depends on whether or not I have like my student loans get in the way of things, because they're fucking scary, man. Like I don't just but
those the collectors are coming.
The debt collectors, yes. Yeah. But I would love to work with certain companies. Like I'd love to have a children's book published, even if it's like not my manuscript.
That's really cool.
That'd be dope.
Yeah. I would love to also publish a graphic novel at some point. I don't know.
Hey.
I like, because those are things that are like 2, if not even almost 4 years long, and I don't know. I've never worked on a thing. I've never worked on a project that has been like so extensive, so I'm not even sure like how, like if I would even be capable of doing that. So I wouldn't know until I like actually did it, no matter which publisher it is. But and I would, oh yes, also I would also love to do some kind of like interactive art piece in the city somewhere, like somewhere that's like local.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah. Because Spotify actually, like, I think like SVA like sent out an email where they were like recruiting like artists to do a thing for Spotify. But I also feel a little indifferent about like art competitions and internships, because I genuinely feel like you should, if a huge company is like reaching out to a group of artists or like a pool of young artists especially, you should just be able to like pay them instead of having people make work for free in the hopes of like gaining some form of attention, you know?
Yeah, there should be some direct monetary
There should
compensation
be.
for creatives,
Yeah.
like any
should
other
be.
job.
Yeah, like especially if it's like a large company, I'm like, stop doing competitions and just like hire like 5 artists. I know you have the money too, so
Or
stop.
just commission people like everybody else. You have the money.
Yeah.
Like,
Even if
what
it's
is
like an
going
initial
on?
stage where you can pay them just for the sketch, like I genuinely like, I every time I think about that, I'm like, wow, like these companies are have like billions of dollars. Like you have $500 to pay
They're
someone.
freaking predatory.
But they got to
Yeah.
billions of dollars fucking somehow, unfortunately,
Yeah, but
Like-
But
by cutting the
Um,
corners.
on the topic of goals, do you have any things that you're working on right now, or things that you wanna create in the immediate future?
oh yeah, so I have some goals for like 2021, and I think one of them is definitely opening a Patreon. So
Hey.
yeah.
Do you want? Yeah, explain what a Patreon is.
Yeah, so Patreon is a platform for creators, and essentially people can subscribe for exclusive content. So you can create different tiers at different prices that give them access to certain things. You know, like there are a variety of people that basically just creatives that are on Patreon. And as an artist, I kind of want to have like this like backdoor access of access to work that I've never showed to the public, or even like, recent like sketchbook pages. I've also wanted to start a podcast on there, so it's fun that you guys invited me to your
Ooh.
podcast. So I
Hey.
wanted to actually have a book where I just write down all ideas and, talking about things that I feel like a lot of people don't discuss or open up on the internet. And having that kind of be a more like personal, like best friend club, between me and my followers. So that'll be fun. I'm not sure exactly like how I want to compile it together, but I have just a bunch of ideas, and I think it's something that I want to launch either mid-February or like late February, but it'll be interesting because it is a month-to-month basis thing, so I feel like it'll provide more structure for my like life, and it gives me more creative control. So a lot of like, because I do freelance, I had this fear of emailing or having to email so many art directors and either not getting a response or getting a very few responses, and basically just being on this like time crunch or being on call 24/7. And I think by launching a Patreon, it'll definitely help me, provide some consistent income that I can rely on, and also basically just share what I do anyways. And I don't know, it's just like every time I want to launch new things, like when I launched my shop, which is, we can talk about that like in a bit, but like when I launched my shop, I thought no one was going to like buy anything, but here I am, like 1,700 orders later. Like, yeah, I did it. It took off. And I'm hoping my Patreon does the same. But other than my Patreon, having that be the first step of like providing a foundation of like financial stability to move. I want to move out within, like spring or summer. I've never moved in general because I've lived in the same place my whole life, and nor have I.
Hey,
dormed.
that's Cameron and I too. So
Yeah. But I've never dormed either. Like because I know Cameron dormed. So you had that slice of life on like 23rd Street. Like I'm like, Julian always tells me about it, but like I feel like even if you dorm wherever it is, it gives you the like opportunity to understand like what it's like to operate on your own.
Yeah, how to live on pizza. I remember.
Yeah, how to live,
How to live on
survive.
pizza.
Yeah,
Amazing.
So
I was just gonna ask, being your own boss and with all of things you want to do, all the things you are doing, how do you personally sort of keep yourself motivated and keep yourself staying productive?
I know the answer, but like thinking about it, a lot of my motivation and push to keep working was fear driven originally because I was like, I cannot afford to fail. Like literally, I cannot afford to take an L. So I would spend like restless nights just working my ass off. And I mean, I still kind of do, but now I've like been more like I've been noticing it more and trying to get myself to take breaks more often and avoid burnout. But a lot of my motivation just comes from the people around me and also just providing that for myself, It's like really weird to say, but having some form of routine in your life and surrounding yourself with things that you love and engaging in things that you like are essentially like the keys to happiness. Not that I think that happiness is a goal, but I think, feeling good and feeling positive is good to have in life.
Yeah,
so,
important.
I made a post about this the other day on my Instagram story of like how I stay motivated, and like I do very, very simple things like just taking care of yourself, because I feel like a lot of artists like forget that like you're a person that needs to be taken care of. So
you need food too.
Yeah, you need to be fed, okay?
And sleep.
You need sleep, you need rest, you need that light exercise, whether you take a walk, whether you, I don't know, bike, skate, yoga. I personally do yoga and I meditate. When you wake up, please make your bed in the morning. I can assure you it makes the biggest difference. There are many people that have a hot debate on whether or not you have to make your bed, but
No,
you're an adult. Yeah, no, you need to make your bed because, it just feels better when you go to sleep because you don't have like crumbs getting in the crevices of your ass crack.
And
okay.
it's so nice just to just slide on into a made bed,
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
No. I was just saying that, and making sure you shower and you eat and you engage in other things that aren't monetized. So making sure you have a few hobbies, even if it's reading or like I don't know, watching anime. Yeah, that's totally a hobby. Yeah, I have plants and I have a cat. I'm a plant mother and a cat mother, so I have something to take care of. And whenever I take care of those things, it's a reminder that I should also be nourishing myself.
For sure. In terms of, I'm also kind of interested. And do you have any like new interests or kind of fascinations or hobbies that you're recently getting into?
Like not even last year, 2 years ago. So it was like the fall semester in 2019. So I've always liked like knitting and crocheting, but it always felt a little bit confusing for me. And, it was a self-taught thing, also with like sewing. So like fiber arts is one of my hobbies. So anything that has to do with like fiber material, whether it's like fabric or like yarn or even like wool. So I took a fiber arts class as an elective in, what was it? Yeah, so the fall of 2019. And I just realized that fiber arts is just much more than like knitting scarves or gloves. And it can be that too, but it's also in a way where I bridged the area of like, what's the word? Technical? Is it technical? Like things that have like a purpose?
Doesn't matter. We got
Utilitarian. I bridge the gap between utilitarian art and illustration. So like, I was weaving tapestries and like making things on a loom that had like shapes similar to the way that I drew. And it was just really fun figuring like how to put my style into a different medium that's more like a sculpture. And even with like the clay pins, I was like, I can make earrings that look like frogs.
Which are fire.
Yeah. And like I think just rediscovering things is a hobby of mine. So sometimes I try to do 10 things at once, but theoretically you can only like do like maybe like 1 to 3 things at once. So thinking about like silkscreen or risograph, which is like a form of printmaking. And like even during quarantine, I had a carving block. And so I made my own stamps when I opened my shop, and I had to stamp some mailers. Keeping myself busy with like things that require like some elbow grease, you know, so not only just drawing.
Mad resourceful.
Yeah.
So,
Huh?
I was just gonna ask. You know, you mentioned quarantine, and obviously you just finished school, sort of as coronavirus was taking hold here. Have you had to sort of have things been complicated? Have you struggled with COVID related things in terms of your art, or has it sort of led to growth?
I think it's definitely led to growth because,
Mhm.
well, first of all, like what you do in quarantine almost does and doesn't have a reflection of who you are as a person, because I feel as though a lot of people had to stay at home and then sit down and just be with themselves and be around the other people that they like shared their roof with. So yeah, it was difficult because there's like myself, my mother and father, my brother who's like 11, and my elderly aunt that lives with us, and we live in a 2-bedroom, and it's really difficult to constantly have mad heads under one roof, you know. And I was also finishing up classes, so I literally had to like go outside and tell people to shut up. So it was really difficult and also scary because, you know, the conditions of the pandemic, we were like, I don't know who's gonna die, but I hope not. You know, like I hope no one does, or I hope no one that we know does. Like there have been like some relatives that like just like passed away from like COVID related things, and there were people that I knew personally that like tested positive, and like some that like were hospitalized, so it was a little scary. But I felt like 2020 was just an absolute shit show, because if you think about it, we started with the Australian fires, and then, you know, COVID, and then Black Lives Matter movement gaining momentum again. And, you know, like I've always, like even before 2020, I've always stated like Black Lives Matter, but this year we finally have the attention of like big corporations and people that, you know, turned their eye and like didn't care or were very complacent. And, you know, people that just were like in their feelings. Like this, like the last year was a mess. Like I realized who and who I did not fuck with, you know? I was making mental note of all the people and like how they were behaving, because that definitely was a reflection of like who you want to surround yourself with. And this all goes back to like, you know, the whether or not you surround yourself in positive energy or negative energy, and that ends up translating into my artwork. And also your well-being, health over wealth, you know? But under the conditions of COVID, I feel like we were all thrown into a situation where we had to reset ourselves. We had to take a step back and be like, okay, who am I and what am I doing here?
Absolutely.
And, you know, I'm constantly asking myself that question, and I'm constantly checking in, because I think it's important to do that, not out of like identity crisis or any form of imposter syndrome, but it's important to remember like why, what is our purpose, you know, like why do we do the things that we love? Why do we do the things that we don't love, you know?
The theme of reflection, I think, is very important in 2020. I think like coming out of 2020 is like it's a good time to kind of look back on the things that we might have struggled with, but also our accomplishments. And in that theme, I was kind of wondering, what are some of the things that you are most proud of?
Okay, so it feels weird to say that like 2020, I feel like things kicked off for me, because it's obviously a time where people are going through it, okay? Like the whole world is going through it. And even if you weren't productive throughout quarantine, like that's totally valid, you know? But I felt like now that I had even more time, I was like, oh shit, I have to work harder. You know? Like I was like, oh my God, I don't have to commute to my classes. That gives me 3 extra hours to do more work.
Where the voices are louder and louder.
Yeah, so it's like, remember when you wanted to do all those things? Now you have the time, so go and do it. And I did. It was bad, but it was also good. So, I think I was like really in my sketchbook. I was really, really in my sketchbook because I was like, I actually have the time to like sit down and sketch. And I painted, which is rare because I work digitally. I work on a tablet. I use my iPad Pro, and I usually do digital illustrations, but I also like to, use physical materials now and then. So I was open to experimenting because I'm like, I have all this time. All I have is time. I'm going to engage in my desires. And I finished a sketchbook in April, May, sometime around then. And I was actually entering a like global design like portfolio showcase, so like basically illustrations that I've already had. And Julian ended up winning the illustration category, so shout out Julian.
Shout out Julian. Snake Bone.
Underscore.
Underscore. Don't forget the underscore. Exactly.
Can't forget the underscore.
They also had a video submission, and I was like, you know what's gonna be cool if I submitted a video of my sketchbook. So I toured one of my sketchbooks from like late 2018 into middle of 2020, and it blew up, and I was like, oh, like people like are interested in this, like what? And I feel like my social media like really took off. And without the intention of like doing that, because what I was doing is making work that was true to me, and like I was cranking things out like left and right, and I was doing that for me, and I was just like, I'm just gonna share it because I've been really bad at posting things, and I know that in the day and age, yeah, Stoic Lotus, Stolo. Basically in the day and age we live now, like social media can be used to our advantage. I feel like it's a tool, like a paintbrush essentially, but it exists in a different area of our understanding, and we have to like learn and adapt to it, and it can be used to our benefit. And I decided, okay, I'm going to, even if it's not that great, I'm going to just share my work. I'm going to share the most vulnerable parts of the art making process, and things that make it and things that don't make it, because I feel like social media is literally structured so we can see the best aspects of people and the best aspects of creative work. And I think my website does that job because it's my official landing page, but I have my Instagram and my YouTube where I invite people to look closer at things for what it is.
Absolutely. On the YouTube thing, I'm interested because I'm also interested in starting a YouTube soon, though it's been a while.
Aside from our streaming
and Instagram and whatnot, but do you have any like future goals with your YouTube? Like, I know you've made a lot of vlogs, which are amazing. People, please go check them out. As well as a new sketchbook that has dropped today, though for people listening to this, probably a week ago. But also check that out. But yeah, I was wondering if you have any future goals for YouTube, if that's going to be something that you continue doing in the same fashion, at least.
I think, I don't pressure myself to put out content, but I do think there's like a lot of content that I still want to put out. So it'll get made eventually, but I think with the type of following I have, they're very, very kind. They're like, take your time. It's okay. Which is nice because I don't want to feel like I'm losing my focus in the creative aspect, because as someone who has the title of illustrator and content creator, which is like wild, I'm doing the work of like 30 people at once. So I'm like having to film, edit, like take photographs, like bookkeep,
do your own posters.
Like do my own like marketing. And there's just so many things that come with it where, you're exhausted from like simple admin work.
Sure.
So I know there are people that like upload weekly, and I'm like, I don't know how you do that. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I feel like if I lived on my own, I would have more agency to like not have to like go outside every 5 minutes and tell my family to shut up. But like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like if I lived alone, I would have I would have less distractions. Like, that's why I was like thinking of like, having a studio, or like moving out, or like having a studio within where I live. But as for YouTube, like, it's just one of the things that I have on the side as like another stream of income. Like I don't do it for the sake of like monetization, because I do it for the sake of like I actually want to share this journey that I'm embarking on that's so bizarre to me. And also, you know, sharing bits and pieces of knowledge along the way and hoping that other people are able to also like uplift their artwork and uplift their reach on the internet. But there's never like any type of like goal I'm meeting, you know? It's like I'm not letting the pressure of social media like suck the life out of like my art work, you know? Because I feel like people are really absorbed with follow. Ooh, sorry.
Radhia just died, everyone. That's staying in.
I feel like people are like really absorbed. I need to drink water.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Okay. I feel like people get so focused on growing a following on social media that they lose focus of making artwork that's good, or making artwork that like has meaning to themselves, because that's what comes first, you know? And if you're only making content and if you're only making artwork for other people, I feel like you are going to eventually just hate it or get really, really sick and tired of it. And that's what I never want happening to me. So I never want to like self-sabotage myself by like chasing one specific thing. And that's why I feel like I have like different platforms and different things that I'm working on and constantly like rotating and constantly like pulling different things into my orbit so that I don't find myself burning out in one particular area, but at the same time making sure that I don't spread myself too thin. But I do have some sponsored videos lined up, which is really cool. I can't disclose what brands they are, but they are some companies. Yeah, the Ninja. They are companies that I'm morally aligned with, and also like physical products that I really, really like, and I wanted to try out. I got this desk and this lamp, the desk that I use in my lamp, through people who found my YouTube channel. They're like, we want to send you these things. We just want you to mention it. And those things are like on a product exchange basis. But now I'm actually having people sponsor my videos, so I signed a contract. So like I'm getting a certain amount paid for that video, like the product mention or company mention. And it's wild to think that, you know, like what? It's like there's certain companies that want to partner with me, and that's super cool because, you know, when I started all of this, I just didn't see it like just gaining so much momentum, like having this like snowball effect.
For sure.
I was just gonna ask, you know, we've sort of gone into your origins, we've looked at what motivates you and stuff, but I want to talk about what inspires you, because I feel like motivation and inspiration are definitely two different things. They're similar, but definitely different things. So yeah, what inspires you?
I think absorbing art inspires me, whether like whatever art form it is, whether it's like film or music or animation or I don't know, photography, whatever it is, like just experiencing things that I enjoy, that I gravitate towards, is very inspiring to me. And, you know, like obviously I have a few illustrator and artists that I really, really love and I follow their work. So to be able to like just view their work and just like have it just like suck up into my memory, that's like an area of like, oh, like I see this person doing a drawing in a specific type of like format, or like maybe they're like laying out a comic page a certain way and I want to do that. Or maybe I see someone making a zine and I'm like, oh, remember when we were supposed to make this zine but you forgot, or like you just didn't do it? We should probably do that. And I think, you know, looking like with animation, like seeing the like storyboarding behind it, looking at art books, and even watching movies and even reading things that are like not art related. I feel like any form of like consuming knowledge somehow ends up coming out back into the world in the form of artwork, you know?
For sure.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. I think, you know, definitely like you guys and Julian and like the people that I like keep close are a point of inspiration because, you know, y'all hype up my work. Y'all are always validating me for the best reasons, and I'm really happy to have a positive network of people and like energy. And also like a lot of the people that I followed for years and years are like mutual art friends of mine, which is fucking bizarre, you know? Like I'm thinking about like Cheyenne Barton. She is actually a actress who was in Seattle, Washington. And I've followed her work for some time, and I remember I used to watch her like bullet journal like flip throughs, and she's just like so multi-talented, and she does like illustration now mostly, and
Interesting.
I'm just obsessed. And like there was one day she followed me back, and there were so many other like artists that followed me back where I just couldn't fathom that they liked my work too. And this is when I had like very, very little followers. So like they found me, they saw my work, and they were like, we don't give a fuck about how many followers she has. Like they looked at my work and they like evaluated that. And I hope that people continue to evaluate my work for what it is, to support what I do and to enjoy what I do. And that also inspires me. I feel like to see that I'm doing all this hard work and to see the positive outcome from it, like it funnels like that positive energy back in and motivates me and like inspires me to like branch out and try new things and I don't know, just do things that I've never done before or kind of rekindle certain projects that I've abandoned.
That's amazing. We
Yeah.
love to see it. It's
Seriously.
it's honestly great to see you thrive, especially like in 2020 when like a lot of people are going through some hard things. It was like amazing to see you really like dig down, push through, and like really take off. And it's been a ride, and it's been great to see
It's
you.
been quite a ride.
It's been quite a ride. But all your products are amazing, and I hope everybody, if you're listening to this, if you haven't checked it out yet, please do check out her stuff. It's amazing. One tradition that we kind of have on the pod is that we like to make a statement of intent when we do an interview or anything like this. So how that would work is if there's anything that you want to do or any plans that you have, you state that you will do it, and then you put it out there into the world. And so you have people's expectations that it will come true, and hopefully we'll see it in the future. We can talk about it.
All right. Should I say it now?
Go ahead.
Go, yeah.
All right. So I'm going to make this Patreon. I'm going to get this bag. I'm going to spread positivity and joy, finally move and give myself the creative space to grow further.
Oh,
Hey!
yes, sir. That was fantastic. You were like, yo, Cameron, truth bullet
Bars.
right there.
I know what I want.
Bars. Yo, Kendrick, please.
The Dagen pose is ready. Along with your statement of intent, before we wrap up and get out of here, do you have anything to plug?
Ooh, so I got my Instagram, Knives Meow. I have my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Radhia Rahman.
Real quick, is there a space between Knives and Meow, or is it all
No,
one word?
it's just one word.
Gotcha.
And then I have my YouTube channel, which is just my name. I have my website. My shop is currently temporarily closed, but it's going to reopen in 2021 with hopefully some really cool products and new stuff. And hopefully when you actually, maybe a month after y'all hear this, my Patreon will be open. But in the meantime, I have another platform called Ko-fi where you can leave creators a tip at the price of a coffee. Someone recently tipped me $50 and I was shook.
That's an expensive coffee.
Yeah, that's an expensive coffee. But there's that. I have a TikTok, but it's mostly for like fun stuff. It's still under my same name. And I think that's it. But my other plugs would be you guys, first of all, for running the pod. And also, you know, Cameron's Instagram, Stoic Lotus. There's a period between it, right?
It is at STO_LO_. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yes, because, you know, you're also an artist, and also Julian, who is my partner, my loving partner.
At snakebone_.
Yes.
Cannot forget the underscore.
And that's all I have for now.
All right, y'all. I think we're going to wrap it up here. This has been the lovely episode with Radhia Rahman at Knives Meow on Instagram, Radhia Rahman on YouTube. Cameron, you got anything coming up?
I guess I'll make a statement of intent.
My goodness, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Let's go. What's up?
I ain't got bars like that, you know, like Radhia Kendrick out here, bro. But
Radhia,
you know,
Radhia Lamar.
Radhia Lamar.
Ride them all.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to drop some prints soon. So
Nice. Oh, look at you.
yeah, I'm gonna get a distributor, figure that out, get some prints out, and yeah, should be fun.
You heard it here first, people. Prints on Stolo's Instagram page coming up.
Yep, had to be inspired by the great Knives Meow, of course. You already know, gotta bring it back full circle. It's been great, and I'm really glad that we finally got to have this talk.
Long overdue.
This for like 6 months. All right, before we get out of here, I'm just going to remind you, don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to Radhia's channel. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Plan C podcast. This is going to be episode 1 of season 2. So, hell yeah. What's up, season 2? And this is the first episode, technically, of 2021. So what's up, 2021? Let's hope there's better things in the future. Don't forget to follow our Instagram, follow our Twitter. We are relatively active on there. Hit us up. And that's all from us. Thank you so much for listening. Adios, Radhia and Cameron. Thank you for joining.
Bye.
Deuces.